Good afternoon, and what is a cold, grey day. It is Monday, the 8th of January, and I've got a nice hot cup of tea. And a box to unbox. So let's get this open. Get the knife out. And what I have got in here is a copy of this, Iain Banks, The Culture, The Drawings. So, this extraordinary collection celebrates the dazzling world building of Iain M. Banks, one of the most important and influential writers in modern science fiction, faithfully reproducing his notebooks he kept in the 70s and 80s. These annotated original illustrations depict ships, habitats, geography, weapons, and language of Banks' Culture series of novels in incredible detail. Now, here's a bit of confession. I've actually not read any of the Culture books. I've read some Iain Banks books, The Crow Road, and I think one of the others. I think, and I keep meaning to, but it's finding time to read all these books in between the role-playing books that I read and review. So I picked this up sort of like as a spur for me to go in and actually read those books, to find time to read them. So let's have a look. Now comes the cellophane. This is going to be an interesting book to actually show to you. In part, I say interesting, it's going to be an awkward book to show to you because of its shape in landscape format rather than portrait. But here we go. As you can see, yeah, not the most easiest of books to show off, but I'll do my best. Quite a thick book. It's over 100 pages, basically a couple hundred pages. Well, over 100 pages, 125, 135, something like that. And so, contents page, or basic credits. Interesting comment there. Culture is my secular heaven, the place I'd like to live. And we have an introduction here, given by Del Banks there. So if I actually do it like this, there's more of an introduction. As I say, not an easy book to show off, but I'm going to do my very best. And here we have an illustration, sort of like, of those books he kept. Now, the thing is, this is not unlike for the book 42, which is the scrapbook belonging to sort of like a scrapbook of content, ideas, and so on. Left behind by the late Douglas Adams. So I think, there is definitely scope for a book like this, which showcases the author's ideas. So here we have the locales of a couple of planets. Showing off to the best effect. Cities, and you could take all of this, I suppose, and use it to illustrate a world, which is what it's doing here, or even take it and sort of like develop it into a role-playing game. And if you were actually running a Culture role-playing game, then perhaps you might consult this for the look and style of the setting, because you literally have images here of how the author envisioned it himself. I think basically that's a real bonus. Just basically a great shot of that castle. It's a terrific kind of Tolkien-esque castle, almost, you know, like cast the city of Gondor, and then we move on to say ships. And I mean, if I was to recommend one role-playing game that would handle the culture particularly well, is Mindjammer, which I thoroughly recommend for transhuman kind of role-playing, because it handles scale effectively well. You know, you can bring into play, you know, the fact that you know, you can play an uplifted ape or chimpanzee as easily as you can play a ship's mind, and the rules still work. We've done it, we've played it. That was kind of fun. So yeah, I mean, for example, so we have like continent class GSV, just literally, I mean, you know, just outlining what they look like, and really they are just slabs. You know, none of the intricacy that we expect in our modern spaceship design. So in some ways, because they're pencil drawings, they're not particularly clear, I suppose, in what they look like. You know, we might be more used to seeing them in perhaps a stronger, say, pen and ink. But nevertheless, you know, this does give us a chance to investigate and see what Iain M. Banks thought his world looked like. You know, I mean, obviously we got to see what he thought it looked like, you know, on the page, but we got to see, here we get to visualize, you know, see his visualization, and I think that's terrific. So the thing is, I'm actually thinking of it. I've only read one culture novel. I think it's considered Phlebas, which I read for a book club, and I wanted to read the rest. And I've heard sort of like radio adaptation, so I'm not unaware, not necessarily of the setting. It's just that I haven't sort of like delved into it as, you know, other people have. But again, you know, there are an awful lot of role playing and fictional settings that I've not delved into, you know, just through time. You know, if I could, a case of sitting down, finding time to just read for pleasure is always a challenge these days. I'm going to move on to, they've done ships, this has got fantastic images of ships, so let's move on to the third section, which is transport. And I mean, also in the sort of sense of some of the vehicles on, it's very sort of like traveller-esque. Think of another role-playing game. So there was some sort of like a personal gyrocopter or helicopter style vehicle. So that's a relatively short section before we move on to weaponry. just that on the one corner of the page, as opposed to all of that on the other page. So yeah, more and more weaponry. And then we have a section with more weaponry. And then we move on to drones. As I say, it is not an easy book to unbox because of literally I've just banged myself in the nose with the corner of the book. Ow. So yeah, drones and devices, probes, that sort of thing. Simple, and then suddenly quite complex and drawn. And that's sort of like a huge raft of ideas and on some page, and then we get to section 6, world building. So we start off with an orbital by me, and then we move on. And then just pages and numbers of calculations there. And these aren't annotated, so there's no, I mean, sort of like with the actual content. Essentially, there might be notes within his own, within the reproduction of the notebooks, but not actually there's no commentary upon this reproduction. So yeah, here we have a page of notes. And again, similar thoughts and ideas put to paper. Sorry, just move on to the next page. Again, and you know, and that sort of thing would take a bit of study to really work out what he is addressing, and there are several pages like that. I mean, here I think we've actually got sort of like alphabets he was creating, and that all sort of like can build and help create a world. And here at last, it's actually got the. I can just say, there we go. Acknowledgements, and I think that's it. That's Iain M. The Culture of the Drawings. Really fascinating book to look at, to see the author actually envisage in it's basically as I say, as not as the written word, but the the visual images of his creation. So yeah, Iain Banks, the culture, the drawings. So, sorry, if you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, then I appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me out here with a box, typically containing a book or game or role-playing game, which I'll unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, or in this case, a book of science fiction drawings by an author, which of course you'll be alerted to whilst I, for the best part of 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea and a distinct non-bashing of the nose. Then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. I will be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.